keep the viewer oriented from the camera's point of view, we need to be aware of what we call the axis and screen direction. You probably remember a time when you were watching a video and suddenly you were confused because you felt like you didn't know where people were in relation to each other, and there seemed to be some kind of a leap in the visual logic. You were disoriented. It was likely a directing mistake. The axis is the imaginary line that determines the camera's placement. The people on screen, like the actors in a play, are on a stage and we're introduced to them from the perspective of the camera. The axis is determined by the eye line between people on screen. Audiences become disoriented when the screen direction suddenly changes. If you film someone looking to the right side of the camera frame, you need to keep them looking that way when you move the camera to a new angle. For them to suddenly look the opposite way, you've changed the screen direction and broken the axis. If we were to jump to the opposite side of the axis, the audience would suddenly become disoriented. If you map out the blocking on the page, it'll look like this. It's a bird's eye view looking down on people in a room. Once we've done this, the axis becomes obvious. We need to make sure that the camera shots stay on one side of the axis, determined by the eye lines of the people on screen looking at each other. If we do this correctly, the screen direction will stay consistent and the audience won't get confused when they're watching. I find this to be a very helpful exercise as I consider how I approach a scene to shoot an event. These principles are relatively easy to understand, but trust me, they can be very challenging to get it right when you're in the middle of shooting. We'll practice these principles with the exercises.